Justice Stats, Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morgan, coming to you from the lovely city of Atlanta, Georgia. And Eugene, we're going to be talking some basketball here. There's a lot of, from a homer standpoint, what we feel like is Trae Young disrespect. Let's go ahead and take this full screen for the people here, man. So I don't see anything when you're looking at this tier list. I think if you count the number out, we're at number 25 here for Trae.
Yep.
Now, before we get into just our home, because that's the home favorite, and that's here, and that's what we want to talk about,
right,
in the A. But we're a sports show that talks about all of the sports, man. No, well, I wouldn't say all the sports, but at least all of the teams. We don't have an Atlanta bias here because when you look at the list, this is basically saying that we don't even have a player above tier 5. That's like our best. That's like the best guy we got. Do you disagree with anything here? I mean, it's kind of hard to. I was talking to my friends about it,
really
and it's kind of difficult to, right? But where would you disagree? And then I'll kind of follow it up.
I mean, maybe Brunson in the third tier there. I mean, I know he's playing great, and the Knicks are definitely, I think they're
Brunson on a tear, man. I'm gonna get those stats before you keep going.
He's on a tear, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue because a good chunk of the guys ahead of him are on winning basketball teams. I mean, just the top 5, right? I mean, I don't know where Dallas is. I hadn't looked at that Dallas stat before we jumped on, but I know they're not killing it in the West, but the West is, it's tougher this year. But yeah, if I know when you sent it to me, I kind of glanced on it. I was like, what? He's 5. But then you start looking at the people, I can't make a case for him to be above any of those other guys.
What's interesting here is as you look at this list, and let's go down the list for people who don't know. Tier 1 is Jokic, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Luka. Which pains me. It pains me to see Luka in the tier 1 and to see Trae in tier 5. I'm not gonna go on that. I'm not gonna go on that rant again today, but that's killing me.
Right.
Tier 2, we have Giannis and Jason Tatum. And I'm just gonna try to do this from these guys' pictures, man. I don't have any names here. So let's just see. It's just my basketball knowledge going across. We got tier 3, Jalen Brunson. I think it's Halliburton. Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Booker, and looks like Sabonis.
And Sabonis is talking about killing it lately. He's been killing it lately.
Man, I had him on my first fantasy team, basketball team ever, and I didn't know who he was. And just seeing those stats, man, an amazing player. Worth every penny he's being paid. Tier 4, Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving, got Tyrese Maxey, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards, tier 4. Tier 5, Lauri Markkanen, excellent player. Paul George, who's been falling off the face of the earth for me lately and killing my fantasy team. Zion, Bam, Adebayo, and then our guy Trae Young. Rounding out, I guess it's 25 players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
25.
Yeah, about 25 players. Okay. Yep. So you talked about Brunson. Now Brunson's averaging 27.6. Shooting almost 50%, 48.3 on the field goal percentage, 3.8 and 6.5 on the assists. I think the differentiating factor is going to be where these teams are placed. When you look at the Eastern Conference, I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, and I'm going to check again just to be sure, the Knicks are 4th. Yes, they're 4th.
They're 4th. Yep.
The Hawks are 10th.
Yeah.
Because these are some of my friends who felt the same. Brunson, I guess, was a low-hanging fruit here. I don't know why they didn't feel that way about Maxey, but felt that way about Brunson. But low-hanging fruit, but he is 4th in the East. The other guys, let's look and see. Let's look at Luka and see where they're doing out there in the West. Mavs are 7th. 7th in the West right now. If you had to have a tiebreaker, I guess the record would be a decent tiebreaker, right? I don't see anything crazy about that.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, all the top 5 guys are on winning basketball teams. Then you go to tier 3, all those guys are on winning basketball teams right now. Every single one of those guys, right? Even I'm looking at tier 4 and I mean, Golden State, yes, they're one game above 500, but you're not putting Trey above Steph. That's just not happening.
You're not.
Yeah. And Maxi's still killing it. He's still balling out there, and he's been just flat out amazing. So I can't even argue with that. It's obviously he's been trying to carry that team, and they're not falling apart. I mean, they need Joel back, but they're still. I just checked. They're still number 5 in the East, and they don't have their best player.
Yeah, man. You know what is interesting about this? And one of the things I didn't think about that I'm kind of seeing though as I'm looking here is every single one of these players. And I'm gonna double check this. Let me go back and look at the Jazz real quick. Okay, so Markkanen's on the Jazz. So that tier 5, there's 2 players, Markkanen and Trey, are the only 2 players on this list whose teams have losing records. Everybody else on this list, team is above 500.
Yeah.
So out of 25 players, only 2 of the 25 players are on teams that are below 500, with the Hawks being at 24 and 31, and with the Jazz being at 26 and 30. And that's crazy, right? So that's crazy. Probably played a factor. Maybe that played a factor because both those players also are in tier 5 at the same time also.
Yeah.
So maybe that played a factor in Fadeaway World's tiers here, and it's hard to disagree with them, to be honest with you, because I don't know if you would trade any of these players for Trey. So you're not trading Tatum, you're not trading Giannis, you're not trading SGA, Luka, Jokic. Those players would never be traded for Trey, straight up, right? I don't think Halliburton would either.
No.
Kawhi, KD. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell would. It's an interesting one because the friends and the people I were talking to, those are the 2 names they brought up. They brought up Brunson and Donovan Mitchell as being the 2 that they would probably take out of the list.
But
I don't know, man. Yeah, no, or have Trey above them.
Oh, okay, gotcha. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. I mean, not even Donovan. Donovan's just,
Cleveland's like second in the East. Let's look at the Cavs second in the East.
Yeah, so you can't. I'm sorry, they can't argue with that. That team has just been clicking on all cylinders. So, I mean, granted, we know Trey. He's been playing much better this year. I mean, the stats are great. The assists are up. I mean, 3 points.
That's always pretty good, though, right?
Right.
He's never had a problem stuffing the stats. It's the results of said stats that have been questionable.
Yeah, and the thing is, and we can also put Luka in this conversation, but the type of basketball that he plays, that Luka plays, we've never seen it win. We've seen it win regular season, but we have never seen it win in the playoffs. James Harden was your closest one, right? Well, I guess if you want to count all 3 of them, right, have at least made a conference final. But
correct.
But none of that style of basketball, where it's a lot of ISO ball, has never won a championship.
It'd be interesting to see what happens, because I think when you're looking at a lot of these lists, Luka stays respected as being one of the top tier players of I don't know if I see any lists like this that are made where Luka is not respected as being a top tier player.
Right.
Trey tends to float up and down these lists, depending, I guess, on who's making them. But people don't really consider him to be in the same class. It's interesting because another thing, when you bring up the Donovan and Jalen Brunson situation, you can argue that neither one of these players, and I like Derek Garland a lot on the Cavs, but you can argue that none of those teams, the Knicks or the Cavs, have a second player as good as DeJounte Murray on their team. So Trey's got a good solid set. He got a solid 2. DeJounte Murray's a guy that can get you 20 to 30 consistently. And stuck to staff sheet as well. I like Julius Randle, but I guess he got injured. But I don't know if I think I like DeJounte Murray a little bit better than Julius Randle.
Yeah.
And like I said, I do like Garland, but Garland's had some health issues kind of in and out of the lineup over the last year or so.
Right.
So I feel like DeJounte Murray is a great second, and yet still here we are with our record. being pretty abysmal compared to the other guys on this list. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, then you also got to factor in they can't be on the floor together. That you can only they don't mesh. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. I've been to games where it doesn't look right. They don't play in sync with each other. When the trade happened, I thought it was going to be great. I thought it would work out, but it's clearly not working out because he was dangling on the trade deadline. He's probably going to get traded in the offseason. But so then what do? I mean, because you gotta now. Granted, Trey's been he's been trying on the defensive side of the ball this year. I have to give him credit for that. He's always going to be defensive.
He can only try so much, though, right?
Right,
like you can just get shot over.
So, I love that he's I'm glad he's not just standing around when he doesn't have the ball. He's doing a lot more movement, but we're just not seeing it. And somebody asked, because I was wearing my Hawks pullover today, and somebody guys asked me today, what do you think is wrong with the Hawks? Or how can we fix it? And like, if you look at it, I think we got the right coach. And if you look at the draft, you can't, if I just showed you, if somebody just never watched the Hawks and I said, look, and they were in a coma for 5 years and they came out of coma and said, look, this is who we have. We have Quinn Snyder. Like, oh, that's a good coach. And then I started listing all the players and I maybe had their stats. You would probably think that'd be at least a 4 or 5 seed in the East. And we're like,
can we even get to 500? Forget 5 seed. Let's even try to get to a 500 record. Can we at least, because that tends to be where we float. That's our average, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly.
And now last few years, our average is average.
It's average. There's that one tweet I love from last year where it put our record, like our 82 game record, what it went. It was 500 the whole year, right? There was no we were never we're a game over 500 once and then back to 500, but 2 games below 500. But I don't know.
500 team, man. That's what we are. We're sub 500 this. We're not even pacing for that this year, but we are definitely a 500 team. Do you think ultimately we would just have to? Because when you look at other teams, let's go to the tier 1 teams, right? When you look at Jokic, Denver, I have no problems with them.
No.
OKC, I love OKC with SGA. And what they're building over there in OKC. I've liked that for the last couple of years, and I think that's kind of bearing fruit for them now as they're at the top of the Western Conference. Luka, I like the Mavs. I don't know what a quick fix is to that because you got 2 guys in Luka and Kyrie that are great scorers, can make their own shot, create their own shots, and Luka, dynamic player all the way around. But I do think they're gonna have to find a way to add more. Keeping Brunson was the answer to me.
Yes,
right? at least part of the answer. It wasn't a full answer, of course, but you already had part of the answer there. So I think you definitely should have kept Brunson. I think he complimented what Luka did well. Maybe somebody else in the front court. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure what the Mavs' problem is because adding 1 or 2 players is not going to make them better than the top teams in the West, in my opinion. Going to the tier 2, Giannis, Doc Rivers off to a crazy start there. Yeah. They fired their old coach, and the new coach doesn't seem to be doing much better. They're still holding on to that 3rd seed. But the Bucks are the Bucks. We'll see kind of what Doc gets done there. I knew that they were going to have some defensive issues once they let Drew Holiday out of there. That was going to be some problems. So
crazy when it happens, right?
They're working through it. I mean, it is. You let a great defensive player walk, and your defense is not as great anymore. Boston, number 1 seed. Not much to be said here because
not much at all.
We got to see you win in the postseason. Knocking on the door. They got Porzingis, who is paying dividends for them, right?
He has looked fantastic. Oh my goodness. That's the Knicks are growing. Where was that been? Where did that go? That's what we.
He was there, man. He was a unicorn, and they got rid of him.
Well, it was the injuries too. The injuries, though.
He definitely was injured. It wasn't like they just got rid of a healthy.
No. Let's preference that. But yeah.
What's tier 3? We have Brunson here. Nothing really be said there. The Knicks are, I think, like what the Knicks did at the trade deadline. I think they were able to hold on to some capital to try to go after somebody to put there with Brunson, but I do think you're going to have to make that move for them to take the next step, in my opinion. Shades of the '04 Pistons here with the Knicks, not really having a guy, but having kind of
Right.
like a
Have a
Chauncey Billups
guy,
like guy with Brunson,
but they have all their picks. They can go and get somebody there in summer. That's the crazy thing. They're set up to go get somebody like because Donovan Mitchell has his. That's I keep hearing his name. That's where he wants to go, and I think his
Wouldn't that be
contract.
interesting? Because
Yep.
he got his team number 2 in the East right now. I don't know why you would leave. I mean, I know why you would leave from a city standpoint, not to knock on Cleveland, but there's a few cities like LA and New York, so that's always something that can appeal
Yeah.
to players. So I mean that's not wild. But it would be interesting though, because then Donovan and Brunson, I'm not super in love with that. Halliburton with the Pacers, who I like the Pacers, that young scrappy team, kind of on the come up there. They just got Siakam as well
Yeah.
there. So
Again, look at their team. Look what they're doing. They're building. They're putting pieces around Halliburton to make that team better. And look where they're at. They're above 500.
above 500, 6 in the East at the time of this recording. Kawhi Leonard, nothing to be really said there. KD, also nothing to be said there. These are just excellent players who you're not going to trade anybody for these human beings, just life. Same thing kind of with Devin Booker, right? He's a guy. You're not trading anything for him. Or moving him up and down. I'll keep him right here.
Yeah.
Sabonis is excellent. One of the reasons why I like watching the Kings, like him and Fox, I really like that team. And they're core pieces of that team to me. Lillard's an interesting case. So for some reason, people feel like his efforts, his impact has been underwhelming. I'm not sure what they're expecting because they are third in the East. It's not like they suck. Maybe because they were already in top 3 in the East before he got there. Those other years they would be kind of floating around that top 3. So maybe people are maybe they thought they'd be 1 with him there. I'm not sure. But the defense was definitely going to suffer, and he's still Damian Lillard though. So
exactly.
Not much to be said there.
Right.
I think they make that trade all over again.
Yeah. You know what? I'd kill to be in third place right now. I would.
Right. Looking down as we look from the cellar dwellers down here.
Right. Yeah. I'll take that. You guys complaining about that? Here, right? Let's trade. Well, I'll take third all day long.
We got Kyrie. Nothing to be said there. I think Kyrie's doing model citizen Dallas, doing what he's supposed to do. But I feel like the same things that have had no craziness from Kyrie, and the same issues that Kyrie teams have had in the past, in my opinion. A guy who's putting up points can do everything that you want him to do on the court, but somehow it does not lead to success outside of the LeBron years. And this has still been something that, until he kind of shakes that, if he goes through life and that ends up being what it is, I think that's something that's going to follow him. Maxey, great up and coming player, a guy that Philly did not want to come off of in those trade talks when all those trade talks were being floating around. They didn't want to come off Maxey, and they proved why. He's a great young player there.
Yes,
and kind of budding, not even at his peak. Right like that simmer there in Philly. Steph Curry quietly have the Warriors in that playoffs.
Quietly,
spot,
right? They
playoff spot, 1 game above 500 for the Warriors, who looked like they were horrible at one point in the season.
Horrible. Yeah.
LBJ, man. So what's interesting about LeBron, and because we talk about LeBron right after Steph Curry, right? And they were, all the articles, they were trying to get LeBron to the Lakers and stuff like that. When I hear people say things like that, Eugene, it's always no surprise to me because of course you're going to kick the tires on good players, right? Now the other team's going to tell you to get out of here. There's no way,
right.
Okay, that's fine. But at least I made the phone call. And I think a lot of teams make these phone calls every year on great players just to see, just to test the waters and see. But I don't see LeBron really leaving the Lakers.
I don't either.
I just being heavily incentivized to do so. I'm not sure why he would, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
At this point in his career, especially, he's already got a chip there. I think I would just hang out in LA, get your movie things. He's entertainment stuff he likes doing there. Anthony Davis, similar situation. I know he's playing out of his mind, man.
Amazing.
And he's an amazing player though. When he's got it turned on, it's a sight to see. And I'm not sure why he would leave LA either. I think him and LeBron should just ride that thing out to see what happens. De'Aaron Fox, I love De'Aaron Fox. Not really much to say there for him as well. Same thing with Anthony Edwards. Atlanta dude. We love him down here in A. Ballin has Minnesota number 1, man.
Number
39
one.
and
So that
16
yeah,
for
that
Minnesota,
might be
number
my
1 in the
person I
East,
was
right? Or
yeah,
number 1 in the
right.
West.
Yeah, that might be my person I switch. Maybe put Brunson at 4 and put Anthony Edwards at 3. That's a good case right there.
Right. I could see that too. Like I would have no qualms about switching Edwards and Brunson, or even adding
Mm-mm.
Edwards. You know how they have multiple people. They have 8 people down here on the tier 4. Just add him to the tier
Yeah,
3 and,
yeah.
and just move him right up. You don't have to take anybody off. Just
No,
move
you
him
don't have
up.
to.
I
Just
could
move
see
up.
him in the tier 3 as well. So that's a good one there. Marketing is always a remarkably consistent guy. On a very underwhelming team. I think they had Jordan Clarkson on that team. I'm not sure if he still is.
Yep, he's still there.
The Jazz are just all right. You know what I mean? Just okay. You know, they got rid of Mitchell and they got rid of Gobert, who's paying dividends. I guess that's what Minnesota was hoping would happen when they sent him there. Because last year they had traded Gobert and the Jazz were still in contention for a good part of the season, and people felt like,
Yep.
what's going on?
What do we
What's going on
do,
here with
right?
Minnesota?
Right.
But it's paying dividends now for the Timberwolves. The marketing's a good player. I'm not sure what the Jazz can do to be more relevant, but it just seems like they aren't really.
They're just a good young team. I mean, you watch them. They're a fun league pass team, but they've got all those draft picks from when they traded Donovan and Gobert. So they can build because
We'll see what they actually use those on, right?
Yeah, you can like overpay on get a player, because you're gonna have to, right? Or use the picks and trade. So yeah, they're fine. They're gonna be a fine team. So.
It's 4 more players here in tier 5. We got Paul George. The Clippers kind of doing what the Clippers do. They're third in the West right now. We all know that we are only going to judge the playoffs for the Clippers, and we're going to see what the health looks like for that team once they get into the playoffs, and then we'll kind of go from there with them. Zion, similar. I mean, the Pelicans number 6. Zion is Zion. He's a good player, but I don't know what they can do to get over to the top of the West. Situation that's similar to some other teams that you'll see. And I feel kind of the same about the Kings. As a matter of fact, you could say the same thing about them. A team that I like the team, but I just don't know what they can do to get into that top 4 conversation, top 4 or 5 conversation. Pelicans aren't far off at 6, but I don't know if I would ever make them better than the Nuggets. I like the Thunder better. I like the Suns better. See what I'm saying? It's just, I would have to see. Maybe they play me into some doubt there, but I'm not sure.
Right.
Which is interesting though is seeing Bam on this list and no Butler, right? No Jimmy Butler on this list because maybe Butler was hurt or something like that. I don't know.
Butler's
tier
not playing
5, we
enough
got
games.
Bam.
Yeah, he's in there. That team doesn't care about the regular season. They're a playoff team. That's all they care about.
It's funny because they don't care about the regular season and they're still 7th in the East.
Right.
So I mean, as we will trade rounding up the last of the tier 5 players here, floating here at 10. I hope we care about the playoffs, and we're not even sniffing that. They're about 7 games ahead of us, 6-7 games ahead of us. The Heat are in that 7th spot. So I think this is a pretty decent list. We'll probably do this again though when they come out with their March list to see if anything has changed. Probably a quicker episode because we could just kind of round out things, see if anything has changed there, and then kind of go from there on that. Now, are there any other surprises here before we get out of here and talk some football? Any other surprises here?
No, I think we addressed it. Like I think we both agree Anthony Edwards should be on that tier 3 group. He's not in that tier 4 in my opinion.
So just not in the tier 4 is what you're saying?
Yeah, no, he's above all those guys in tier 4 right now.
Okay.
I mean, not history wise, right? He's not better than obviously LeBron and Anthony Davis, but right now, I would take Anthony Edwards over most of the guys in tier 4.
Yeah, so Anthony Edwards, and you think Anthony Edwards should move up to the 3rd spot, is what you were saying?
Yep,
right?
I do. Yeah, he's got his team in number one seed right now.
No, and he's from the A. You know how
exactly. And he went to UGA.
I'll move him from Atlanta. A tier bump just for that.
Right.
Now let's talk about your boy Kyle Shanahan here.
Kyle, or I feel so.
Our boy Kyle, poor Kyle. Let's go full screen on that. Poor Kyle, because I don't think he deserves the knocks he's getting here as the choker, pretty much. He's um, it's unfortunate, but I think at the same time, your record is what your record is. I remember texting you that before. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
your record is what your record is, and he has blown 3 leads in 3 different Super Bowls, and then now people are calling him a choke artist. Ah, I'll let you go first before I kind of dive in there. I'm not really sure about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you broke up on me. What did you? Can you repeat what you were asking me?
What are your thoughts on him being called a choke artist? Now there are some people you do talking about firing a guy. I don't know if you saw some of that,
Oh,
and maybe
really?
we'll talk about some Steve Wilson. Yeah, man, they wanted him out of here.
Well, I
Some of
know
it he need
Steve.
to be the
No, that,
overtime decisions and all that stuff. They were like, "Yo, get Kyle out of here."
yeah. I mean, well, the first Super Bowl. I mean, are they blaming the Falcons Super Bowl on him? Is that the 25-point lead? Is that
Yeah.
the
So
one?
here's the problem. Here's the problem
He
with
wasn't the
any.
coach.
He wasn't, but the problem is we all know he did run the offense, and the biggest
True.
issue that he's gonna have is any one of these things on its own probably wouldn't be a combination. So if it was just the Falcons game, I don't think he gets called to the carpet for that. But the fact that
Right.
he's had
Right.
2 other instances outside of that, that one's gonna get added on if that makes sense.
True. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's just little things that happen too, especially when we talked about the first Super Bowl, the 2019 one. It's like, man, if Jimmy G underthrows that ball just a little bit, it's probably a different story, right? I know I've heard the argument too. Should he taken the ball? Should he have, kicked it off? And I think the analytics was like 51% of the time in overtime. I think they win. Like someone wins when they don't get to do the ball second or something like that. Or it was really close. What the analytics were saying about that, but my God, and there's things that happen in the game that just like the blocked extra point. I mean, how many games have you watched this year and that's happened? Like, I mean, you probably count in your one hand, right? I think what happened like 9 times or something. I think somebody was saying like all year that a blocked extra point, and I'm surprised this doesn't happen more. But the punt that hit the other, hit your own player. I mean, in the foot, like it's not like it bounced off his head. It hit him in the foot. It's like how it's just like little things like that. And it reminded me of Saban. And speaking of Saban, we gotta do a Saban episode at some point. Just got a side note there. But
I'm down for
we
that.
gotta do one on him. But Saban said something really interesting. Like, when he's talking about winning all the 7 when he won the 7 titles or whatever. He goes, when you get that many, you got to have some luck, and the Chiefs just have it, right? They have that luck at this point, I mean, because it's just like all those things happen, right? Just don't like a block extra point and a punt going off someone's foot. Those are just lucky things that happen. And Saban said that like every now and then you just need something like that to happen to you. And he goes, "It's lucky for us. It just happened to us a lot." And yeah, I feel bad because it's like when I watched that game, there wasn't times I was like, oh, he should have done this. Maybe on the overtime, maybe you nitpick that, right? Not maybe going for that.
Not taking the ball.
Well, you take the ball, or we'll just say, okay, here he took the ball, but kicking the field goal in the end,
Versus trying to go for 7.
right? I don't know.
I don't know,
Maybe
man.
I don't know.
It's because I think
Is
that
that
it's easy to second guess it now,
yeah,
right? Like
right,
we all know how those calls go later when everybody's sitting at home and they already know the results. Of course, you know what to do then. I think the
right.
biggest problem here is um it's hard to escape that this is what your record is.
Mhm.
So that part I don't think is necessarily unfair because these are things that they actually happened. If I'm a guy that's going to talk stats about other things, and I'm railing about Belichick and the 300 wins, no matter how it gets explained, he's got to 300 wins, no matter how people want to slice it. Kyle has been involved in 3 of the biggest point losing Super Bowls out there. And they
Mhm.
have one name in common, and that name is Kyle Shanahan.
Right,
So
right.
I think that's going to be that's that's going to be the problem. Now, when it comes to the fire, Kyle Shanahan, get the hell out of here. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
What the hell are you fire Shanahan? So the guy gets to 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 or 5 years, 2 Super Bowls. You want him out of here. But that's just not good enough, you know. He doesn't play special teams. Because you can say that special teams lost that Super Bowl for him this last time. I mean, he's not the one who muffed the punt, because at that particular point, and this is kind of back it up a little bit of Steve Wilks, man. Let's talk a little bit about him as well here, as him being scapegoated out of, out of the 49ers situation. I never thought he should have left Carolina, to be honest with you, when they got him out of there. They had trouble scoring. The Chiefs couldn't score. The Chiefs have trouble moving the ball. They've even said that themselves after the game. So they muffed the punt, give Patrick Mahomes a ball. I think it was like 20-30, like right there, pretty much in the red zone, instant red zone opportunity.
Right.
For one of the greatest players that's ever lived. So he goes out there and capitalizes on that opportunity.
Yeah.
And now Steve Wilks is a bum. Like now Steve Wilks can't coach anymore because of this muffed punt. It's crazy how a muffed punt changes so many careers and storylines for people, right?
Right.
You miss a point after, you muff a punt, changes the complexion of the game, and now people call your whole career into question, right? Like, you know, hey, is this guy really any good? I don't know. I don't know if he's any good. Maybe we should just fire him and get I don't know who here, because that's the thing too, right? You fired a guy, who do you get, Eugene? Fire Shanahan, who will have a million job offers the second he touched down, if that was ever to happen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like all the people. He'd be quickly, picked up. Yeah. The thing. I mean, the only thing is you can look at the 49ers path to the Super Bowl. I mean, they did not have a great game against Green Bay. They were good. Green Bay ran all over them. Detroit ran all over them. And you could probably make the case they should have lost both those games. Their defense was not good, but their defense was fantastic in this game. I mean, I don't know about you, but that first half was I get it, but I mean, that first half was boring. Like, I was ready. I was like,
man.
I was falling asleep. It's like they got it. Usher came on and woke us all up, right? Out there roller skating on the stage. But you're right, and I feel bad for Steve, because I mean, I felt like that defense played a great game. I mean, even the second half. I mean, at some point you got to keep going for a 7. You can't go field goals against that type of team. It's like when you play Alabama, when the Saban was there, you can't kick field goals. You got to go for. Same with Belichick. You got to go for 7 every time. You can do 3 points, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I think there's something said about trying to put the teams away. Like winning championship teams, if you had them on the ropes, you have to put them away. We've seen time and time again in multiple sports where if you let them hang around, because the thing is in that game, they had thrown the kitchen sink at Kansas City and they were only up 7 for the vast majority of that time. All the mistakes, all the holding Kansas City to 3 and outs, them not being able to move the ball down the field, and you still only were beating them by 7 points. It's not going to be enough. You needed pretty much. They went up 10, but I think the feeling is that you needed to be 17, right? That was a feeling. And the feeling is you don't necessarily feel comfortable going up 17, but you feel much better going up 3 scores than going up 2 scores against a player like Patrick Mahomes. And I feel like that was really the tell of the tape. They weren't able to kind of like put them away. Maybe Steve Wilks was a sacrificial lamb, but I don't know, man. I don't always agree with there having to be somebody to take the downfall for losing in a Super Bowl. Now, here's where I will stick up for Kyle. These losses, 1 to Tom Brady, 2 to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Those aren't bad losses. So those aren't bums. You got 2 of the greatest players and the coaches, Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. These are 2 excellent coaches, 2 excellent players that you just lost to, 2 Hall of Fame players, 2 of the best to ever play the game in life. And that's who Shanahan's losses are to, right? So, I mean, there's a couple things that if you're breaking down a game that you probably could have did better. People did feel like maybe they could have ran the ball. The 49ers ran the ball a lot this year. Maybe people felt like they could have ran the ball a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I think this is a special teams situation here. I think special teams lost them the game. the muff punt and the miss point after, which kind of kept things within reach
Right.
for the
Right.
Chiefs,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like when the Chiefs also at overtime saw the 49ers take the ball, I felt like they felt pretty good about that because their defense has been playing remarkable. 49ers were going to have to go down there and score a touchdown or just hope their defense held up, which it did not. Patrick Mahomes, one drive to win it all, goes out there, makes the plays that needs to be made. I don't really know what else Kyle Shanahan could have done about this. Do you think Steve Wilkes lands somewhere? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the whole Carolina thing. I thought he did a fantastic job when he took over at Carolina. Should have kept the job, and you saw they overpaid you know, Reich, so that's on them. Yeah, he'll get another job. It's unfortunate. He was, like you said, sacrificial lamb, but yeah, I think someone will definitely hire him. Bring him here. He can help our defense. We got a good defense, so why not bring him here?
It'd
But
be
yeah,
interesting
in
to see
your
what happens there, right?
yeah, and only thing you can nitpick is Purdy. He played well, but why didn't he run? He could have ran some of those times to get out of the pocket. He played. I heard somebody say he played safe because maybe the lights were a little big, but I mean, I was still like I mean, the Chiefs defense was on him a lot in that second half. So, and even first half. So, yeah, I don't know who you can blame for any of that.
I wouldn't really. We'll do a whole Purdy episode because I go back and forth with the Purdy conversation, and we'll do a for and against Purdy episode here because I believe that there's a lot of, hey, I think Purdy is not the reason they lost the game, so I'll give him credit. I mean, you went in and you of all the people, if I could blame this event, when you look at the other players, the Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons of the world, go look at how they did against this Kansas City defense.
Right.
They didn't have great games. They didn't have great games against this defense. This is the second best defense behind Baltimore, I want to say.
Yeah.
Kansas City had the second best defense in the league. So people thinking that Purdy should go out there and be putting up 300 on these guys, I'm not sure what they've been looking at all season to kind of come to that to come to that conclusion against a great Kansas City defense that made Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson look completely pedestrian when they played them.
Especially he, not only that, but Lamar's probably going to win his next MVP, his second MVP, and they made him look just like a backup quarterback that whole game.
Right? Could you imagine? Because he did end up to win. What he won like the week after? After that, he won it. Like they did the honors. He wins the next week. But the biggest issue is like it's rough, right? 'Cause I'm pretty sure he'd rather you want the MVP, but I'm pretty sure you'd rather be given that speech on your way to playing in a Super Bowl or something, right? Like you want to be giving that speech when you're on your way about to play the game. You already got your MVP out the way. You headed into the big game, and I think that's the one he'd rather be given. But they did make the second a guy who's got 2 MVPs, MVP this current year, look completely pedestrian. So it's no surprise to me that Purdy himself would not look the best. And I think it is what it is. They run it back again next year. I think a lot of people have them picked again. It's going to be a Chiefs
Vegas has
49ers at the top.
Yep. Yeah. Vegas has them by plus 450, and you have Kansas City, I think, was like 5 or plus 5 or 550. But yeah, they're right there next to each other. So,
well, we'll have a chance to kind of check out some draft stuff on the way, getting into our NBA season. We'll talk a lot of basketball coming up here. Maybe we'll do a few more Mount Rushmore episodes as well. Check us out. Justice Stats, Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morton, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Also, check out our Instagram and our YouTube page as well. See you next time, guys.